Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. We talked yesterday about the athletic director search and say we'd update you with more information as it came out. Well, hey, it's been a day and we're back again. So wanted to touch base. Zach's able to join us tonight, so we wanted to get his thoughts on a few things and just kind of discuss some more news that came out today. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Zach and Emma for joining me, of course. And guys, how you doing?
Good. Happy to be here. Sorry I couldn't be here yesterday, but we're going to have a fun discussion today, more about kind of that news and a couple other things as well. Happy to be here. How are you doing, Emmett?
I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, we have a little bit more to talk about for the situation with some news that came out today. Alan Haller's official statement came out today. But before we get into the doom and gloom, Zach, do you want to shout out and give us some positive spread to start the day?
Yeah, you always love positive start to a podcast, right? Not like a negative start like we've had prior, but we've also had positive episodes as well. So yeah, I just want to kind of give a shout out real quick to MSU baseball, especially Joseph Jurwa. He was absolutely spectacular in the game today. Ended up getting a 2-0 win over the number 6 team in the country, Oregon. Joseph went a complete game, gave up only 3 hits, 11 strikeouts. He was just everything that people have said he is. He's going to be a guy that's going to be drafted pretty easily. He's going to be a guy that's going to probably be, if I would have to guess, a top 5 round pick in the MLB draft. Like we've said in the prior episodes, he's basically MSU's Tariq Skubal. Like, you've seen just how good he was. This was a game that Michigan State had their ace going. Oregon had their ace going. Michigan State did have a couple opportunities in this game to score runs. They had at least one unearned run, but they put up 2 runs, which at the end of the day, when you have a guy like Joseph Jurwa on the mound and he's as locked in as he was in this game, he had 3 strikeouts. He struck out the side in the 9th inning and threw like 118 pitches, something like that. Like, that is absurd. Think about, like, anyone in the MLB doing that. Like, you don't see pitchers going complete games in the MLB. You definitely don't see that going in college either. So shout out to him, shout out to the team as a whole. This was the highest ranked win for Michigan State since 2014, where they beat number 1 overall Oregon State. So it's been a really long time since they've been a team as highly ranked as Oregon. And for kind of where the baseball team is right now in the Big Ten standings, they really need this win. They probably need another win against Oregon this week, and they get 2 more chances. But if you get a win when you have Joseph Jurwa on the mound and get a win against Oregon's ace, possibly could get another win or 2 maybe in this series. Getting a series sweep would be absolutely huge, but this Oregon team lineup is just stacked. If you shut a team out like that, you're a really, really good pitcher, and that's why Joseph Jurwa was 7-2 this year. So shout out to the lefty Tariq Skubal of Michigan State, and shout out to a huge victory for Jake Boss and that team over there. Definitely deserve praise here. I think they deserve a little bit more praise overall. Definitely think they get a little bit of hate on social media, but I won't get into that too much. But huge win for the baseball program.
Yeah, Sky Harris of the Tigers. Hope you were paying attention a little bit. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So,
agreed.
So yeah, we wanted to hop in. We'll first kind of go back to the athletic director news from yesterday with Alan Haller officially being fired. I'll turn it over to Zach since he wasn't here. Just Zach, what were your quick thoughts on what happened yesterday and the timing and everything about Alan being dismissed of his duties?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what you guys probably said are going to be things that I've said, that I'm going to say. I think one of the things that was most surprising is that it did happen right now after some stuff has been put online. Some people have been saying some stuff. It didn't really seem like he was ever going to kind of have his contract renewed. I do definitely think it's interesting timing, but if there's a timing that does happen, honestly, this would be kind of the timing it would happen until you kind of let him run out his contract. So I think the timing's interesting, but with the evolution of college athletics, it's not too surprising of a firing, in my opinion. I think, and you guys have probably said this, and so many people have probably said this, I think if Alan Haller was the AD 10, 15 years ago, kind of the prime of Mark D'Antonio, I think Alan Haller would have been a great AD because
That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
I think he would have been a great AD. I think he's done a really good job of hiring coaches. I know there was a tweet earlier today. I forgot what account, but they like looked at his like 5 hires. I think it was like softball, volleyball, basketball, hockey, and I forgot the other sport. There's like 5 of them, and
It was football, women's basketball, men's hockey, volleyball, softball.
yeah. So you look at their overall conference record, and they have a below 500 record. But if you look at some of kind of those sports recent history, especially softball and volleyball, they're definitely kind of continuing to kind of try to rebuild there. So I don't think can give him too much slack there. But he's done a great job with Freilich. He did a great job with the women's soccer team. I think obviously Nightingale is great as well. So I think he's been very good or pretty good at hiring coaches, bringing in the right people. But guess what? With the evolution of college athletics, that's not the main thing anymore. Like obviously like winning is important, but you have football as kind of the mainstay of college athletics. It's the main money winner. And with Jonathan Smith obviously having the year he had last year, I still think this is going to be a rebuild. I still think Jonathan Smith deserves time, and we'll obviously get into the kind of that discussion. I won't necessarily go all the way completely there, but it's all about football. It's all about fundraising. It's all about NIL. And I think that's where he fell short. And I think that's what Guskowitz was saying in his letter earlier today or yesterday, where he's like, hey, we need someone that is better at like coming up with ideas, better at like fundraising, better at NIL, better at just kind of understanding the landscape of athletics, of college athletics, of this whole NIL fundraising kind of just side of the sport, because that's where we are right now, obviously. And while I thought that Alan Haller obviously loves Michigan State, he played at Michigan State, he's basically his whole career has been at Michigan State. He is not someone that is extremely outgoing. Like he's kind of pretty much introverted, which in kind of this day and age, unfortunately, is part of his downfall. Just being able to not be great at fundraising, not being able to kind of get NIL going. And I think that frustrated a lot of people. I think that it just wasn't what Guskowitz wants. And I think it really opens up an interesting door for the AD, because I don't know if you guys mentioned it, but guess who Guskowitz has a relationship with that isn't too happy with the football hire? You have the AD of North Carolina.
We had mentioned that that was our only speculation. We said, hey, once more names are officially announced, we'll go and talk more about it. But yes, we did mention UNC's athletic director as one potential option. That was the only way we touched on it, just for future, because obviously right now the best case we have is doing circles in our chair and throwing darts at a wall and saying that person would make a good hire. Yeah. Because we're not inside those meeting rooms. We don't have that access to see, okay, who are they interviewing? Nothing is public as of right now.
And with hiring a firm to do the outside searches and stuff too, that's going to be a lengthy process. So they'll identify candidates as it goes, and hopefully we'll find out on who's at least being interviewed, but you never know.
Yeah, and also it wouldn't surprise me if they've already kind of started this process, because if
they might have had a short list by the time Michigan State basketball was even in the Big Ten tournament, for example. We don't know how long this process has been going. This could have been, they had a short list together 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and they started reaching out. I doubt they reached out officially, but I'm sure feelers might have been sent around.
Agents, because you don't make this firing.
You don't jump blind.
You don't make this on a whim. Like, this is something that was absolutely planned for at least probably a couple months in advance. So I would assume there's kind of that back channel type of conversation where it's not like you're saying, I mean, it's not quote unquote official conversation, but you're just on the back channel. And you're like, hey, like, how would you feel about being the next AD at Michigan State? Is that interesting to you?
Have you ever, have schools reached out to you? Have you looked at a change of scenery?
Also, if the North Carolina AD comes to Michigan State, maybe we'll get a little bit more friendly of a March Madness bid too as well.
Hey,
that'd be nice.
That would be great.
All right, and so then continuing on athletic director news, Alan Haller released an official statement today. I can pull up the part that stood out, at least to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
We have, in the second paragraph of his official statement today, we'll link the official statement in the bio for the video. He has, throughout my career, I've consistently spoken up when I believe something was not right, always guided by a commitment to protect students and uphold the best interests of the university. At times, those decisions have not aligned with individuals in positions of significant influence. That is the part that really stands out to me, because everything else is more just, thanking all the support that he's gotten in the last 24 hours and his entire time, reiterating how grateful he is for his time as a Spartan. But that paragraph in particular kind of gives you a peek behind the curtain of those closed-door meetings. Now, I don't know about you guys, but one of the first things that really stands out to me for that is in the terms of doing the right thing. If you're looking at just recently, one of the most controversial decisions was looking at Urban Meyer. We're not sure how official this information ever was, how official they looked into the process of actually hiring someone like an Urban Meyer as head coach, but that frenzy in 2023 definitely stands out as a doing what's good, doing what's right situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it yesterday. Sorry, Zach. I kind of mentioned that yesterday. I think a lot of people were in favor of that decision as far as people in power maybe wanted somebody like an Urban Meyer to come in. And that would certainly make sense based on what, he just said. I mean, it could be completely unrelated, but, you heard
that he thinks doing what's right is letting Central off the hook, for example.
Yeah.
That could be his view of doing what's right. We don't know where that frustration started, where that frustration came from. It could be something as small as that escalated and snowballed. We want to preface with that.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's been kind of rumored and makes sense that if he was the one kind of putting the kibosh on hiring a person like Urban Meyer, especially coming after what Mel Tucker's incident was and all that, he very well could have just said, I don't want to deal with that baggage. And that's that. And that could have been what it is. I mean, we don't know for sure. We probably will never know for sure, but it makes sense. So.
And I really think his statement and Guskowicz's statement, even him saying that some of his decisions are doing quote unquote what he believed is right, and it just kind of went against some of the people that were higher up. I don't really think the statements really kind of contradict each other, to be completely honest with you, because I think you can see what Alan Haller says, and then you can understand maybe what Guskowicz was saying. Because guess what? If the higher up or the more quote-unquote influential people are those high donors, guess what? They're not going to want to give money to Michigan State if Alan Haller's the AD. So if you look at kind of Guskowicz's point of view, like you can kind of see maybe a correlation kind of between each other. Not saying that's exactly what's happening. Obviously, we don't know everything that's happening. Again, it could be the Central Michigan thing. It could be the Michigan skirmish on the field. It could be Urban Meyer. Yeah, it could be several
something
things.
As small as the Colston Loveland Anthony Jones incident at the end of the Michigan game last year, and making a statement on that, or kind of just letting it die down, let college students be college students. We do want to point out that President Kevin Guskowicz was not in office at the time of the Urban Meyer situation. Flirtation, situationship, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Guskowicz was hired in May of 2024, so about a year ago, almost to the day. I believe it was May 14th. We're recording May 2nd.
Yeah.
So we do want to point out that, yes, Guskowicz it could be more of the call of the Board of Regents, the boosters. It could be a matter of where the money talks, and Guskowicz obviously would at best be filled in secondhand on this. Obviously, this is all just speculation by us, though, we want to point out.
And to me, it's MSU is finally making a commitment to, and rightfully or wrongfully, whether you believe it's the way to go or not, they're making a commitment to let their donors have more influence in these decisions and get the money back into the programs to try to fundraise and be competitive in the NIL space. Say what you want of that being right. You don't necessarily, I mean, I can get not wanting the boosters to run things all the time or the big donors to control the university, but at a point anymore, you kind of have to let them
NIL
go.
Money talks.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, just like the AC/DC song, Money Talks. It definitely talks in college athletics. You see what's happening in Texas, and boosters have fired coaches before. Not saying that's exactly what's going to happen at MSU, and maybe they want more involvement, but maybe not to that extent I think that's going to be the most interesting part of this whole hire is what this AD really cares about. And I think what a lot of people really want this AD to do is invest in the money-making sports, invest in football. You're always going to have fans that are going to want to invest in basketball as long as Tom Izzo's here. My real question is, what is this athletic director and this administration of the athletic department going to do with sports like hockey, with sports like soccer, with sports like baseball? Like, for a lot of people, they probably don't really care too much to specifically just be blunt about it.
For example, in this podcast, people might skip through when we talk about, women's volleyball making a hire, gymnastics, and that's perfectly okay. We recognize that there are fans who follow this for the basketball and football content. But at the end of the day, you have to wonder how it's going to affect these programs. Zach and I were having this discussion before we started recording tonight. In my opinion, you have to continue to invest in hockey, at least short term, because looking at every program on campus, them and maybe gymnastics are your two, I don't know how many people gymnastics returns, but hockey and gymnastics are your two best shots to get a national title in year one as an athletic director for whoever our incoming athletic director is.
Yeah.
Those are the two programs that at least you, by being passive and letting them continue to roll with what they have, you might be in attendance at a national title game at this, 10 months, 10, 11 months from now, you're going to be at a national title game. So
Exactly.
Those are the ones that, in short term, hopefully you at least continue to invest in, keep the same budget. Hopefully, in an ideal world, obviously, everyone gets an increased budget. But at the end of the day, that allotment is going to be what comes into play, especially with the house settlement incoming.
Exactly. That house settlement is going to be absolutely massive. A lot of that money is going to be going to football, just kind of the way things go and just kind of the short-term thing of just athletics. And I think this is where we kind of can transition and kind of short-term part of football.
Yeah, short-term.
Yeah.
Is what's going to happen with Jonathan Smith. This firing changes things dramatically, possibly, and I know that's one thing that we want to talk about. Kind of that new news coming out about Alan Haller getting fired means that the buyout for Jonathan Smith cuts in half. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, well, one of the main reasons we wanted to do something else again tonight that was released today. I think Chris Solari was the first one I think
Yes.
that posted it, but there was a clause somewhere in one of the contracts, but the buyout to pay Jonathan Smith, should he be fired, is now cut in half because Alan Haller is no longer
Only
the
$3 million.
athletic director. To me, my biggest takeaway from that is Jonathan Smith is now on the hot seat this year, rightfully or wrongfully. You basically have a one-year audition coming in for a new athletic director, and if he doesn't feel you're going to be up to snuff, he can easily replace you without much fuss and get somebody in that he wants to maybe have the program ran his way. So in my personal opinion, I think that would be way too early of a firing. I don't think that should happen. I think Jonathan
Agreed.
Smith is building. I mean, this program, I said it the other night, was very broken when he took over, and it's not sunshine and rainbows right now, but it's trending up. And if you are of the mindset of getting a competitive NIL package in place for the football team to be a top NIL program in the country, why not let Jonathan Smith have a crack with that to see what kind of roster he can build? If he goes through and doesn't want to use the NIL money how you want it to, or still doesn't want to pay for players the way you think he maybe should, then you can have that discussion. If he goes out and we go 4-8 or 5-7 again and miss a bowl game, the offense doesn't make the improvements it needs to, et cetera, you can have those discussions. But as it stands right now, I don't think he should be on a short leash, but unfortunately, I think that's just how it's going to be, depending on who's hired.
I actually think I originally said the same thing as Chris, so that it's putting him on the hot seat, but thinking about it a little more, I almost think it's a 2-year trial run for Smith now with his buyout. His buyout is now among the bottom for Power 4, Power 5 coaches at this level, just in terms of only $3 million to get rid of him, which is about the same amount MSU paid Oregon State to acquire Smith in the first place. I think this is going to end up being about a 2-year trial run for Smith now, because, I definitely agree with Chris that you're on the hot seat, because the new athletic director has never been impressed by Smith in terms of you never were the one to make that, unless you're acquiring Oregon State's athletic director, you were never the one to make the decision that, yes, you want to hire Jonathan Smith. You never got overwhelmed, and you never got that overwhelming feeling of, yeah, I think he can lead my football program to excellence, to relevancy. So you never had that moment with Jonathan Smith that Alan Haller did, for example. However, in this new NIL era, I think you have to give him 2 years to prove himself, because you have to give him a full recruiting cycle and a full winter portal and spring portal cycle. With if you're promising increased funds, and that's what you're going to bring to the university as the athletic director, you're going to get the $10 million tech bros who are MSU grads to pay more money into your program. You have to give Jonathan Smith that budget. You have to give him that tryout run, I would say, in the fall. And if he acquires a quarterback who is better throwing left-handed than right-handed, and he's a righty, and you acquire a kicker that can't make a 20-yard field goal with that money, yes, move on from Jonathan Smith, because his team can evaluate talent. But you have to give him that chance to make that splash. If you think that acquiring another starting quarterback at, say, the Group of 5 level or the Power 4 level, lower tier, if you think you can make that push to acquire your heir for Aiden Childs if he has a phenomenal junior year, for example, then you're going to have to show the faith in Jonathan Smith with that increased budget. Because if you're going to give him a hampered budget and give him the 1-year tryout, you're punting this football program back 2-3 years no matter what you do.
And I do want to say one thing. You know how funny that would be if we hired Oregon State's AD? Like, just imagine how funny that would be.
That kind of occurred to me as I was speaking. I was like, that would be the funniest thing imaginable. So I'm going to look up, we're going to run an article on it soon, guarantee. Oregon State's athletic director, just as, a general post for fun and engagement. Oregon State's athletic director to Michigan State.
Yeah, that would be really fun. That would be really interesting. More funny than anything. I would be shocked if that ever did happen.
I wouldn't like it, but I think it would be funny.
I'm pretty sure the entire city of Corvallis will melt down if that happens.
I was just going to say, think about Corvallis. Yeah, I was just thinking about Corvallis' reaction to Jonathan Smith coming. Imagine their reaction when their AD and whole athletic department leaves.
I will forever refer to Corvallis as West Lansing from here on out if that happens. If the funniest thing imaginable happens, I'm calling it West Lansing the rest of my life till I die.
Yeah, and no shot at really Corvallis or Oregon State, but to be completely honest with you, I wouldn't want to hire the AD from Oregon State. I would want an AD that
I would say
is from a bigger program, a little bit of a bigger program, and someone that's been around for a while, or maybe has been really good at navigating. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the key thing, is I think MSU can take kind of 2 approaches to this hire. I think number one is, if you want to have someone that has experience, that has navigated this, that has been really good at it, that's at a bigger program, I think that is a great way of approaching it. I can also see them navigating away at a program that's a little bit smaller, but that has done a good job of keeping athletics and keeping their players in relatively compared to all of these other smaller schools. Because we all understand that there's some of these small Power 4 schools that have been kind of, a lot of these really good players are leaving because of NIL. If there's anyone that's been kind of a good job of navigating that, I don't know the amount of teams and ADs that has been good at that. That could be really interesting. Or do you want to kind of keep it within house? I feel like there's been a few people that have been hinting at Garrett Ringenstuhl. I probably completely botched his name.
Yeah.
He's assistant AD. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
I've heard Darian Harris's name thrown out there too.
That would be really interesting.
I would be interested, but at the same time, it depends, because he has been a staunch Alan Haller defender, and I don't blame him. I thought I would have, if you had told me a week ago we were firing Haller, I would have said, what scandal came out? Yeah. I would not have thought it was NIL reasons. Obviously, Darian Harris is a little more in touch with the NIL. I believe he has been dealing with that on a day-to-day basis for 2-3 years now. So obviously I would have a little more faith on that end. But at the same time, with how staunch of a defender of Alan Haller he is, I just wonder if it becomes a Haller by proxy situation. Not like Haller by proxy, but just you see the same thing.
Right, you're not going to replace him with somebody who's basically been Alan Haller's mentoree and somebody from the same school. If you're focusing on fundraising, you want to go with somebody, in that.
You need someone who understands that not everyone will come from this universe. I personally would love a hire who's not a Michigan State alum. because I want someone who understands that not all the love comes from, inside of attending this school. As an alum of Michigan State, attending this school, falling in love with it, and wanting to, make it a career, make it a life of being the athletic director for them. You have to understand that not everyone has that background, but you want to be able to push with the alums and also be able to push with the common fan. That is why my nomination for athletic director is Chris Norman, ladies and gentlemen.
I agree.
I accept.
We pitched it yesterday. We're pitching it again today.
But he did go to Central, though.
Exactly.
So does that
Exactly.
disqualify
I'm not an
him?
alum.
So he understands the hate for Central Michigan, and he's gonna make it, and he's gonna run his university into his alma mater into the ground.
We'll see.
And just run the
I
football
don't know.
program into the ground. Get him a death penalty for 4 years. We're fine.
I was just going to say, do you want to go against Amy Fullen? I don't know.
I
We'll
don't
see.
necessarily mind that. She hired Jim McElwain, but I could do a whole podcast on that. So we'll digress. There's some other news and notes from football and a couple of the other sports. I'll run through them rapid style and just get your guys' reaction as a whole at the end. We didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but just some stuff that was released today that I thought we should bring up and discuss. The last bit of football news, Anthony Jones, former edge from MSU, committed to UCLA, so congratulations to him. Best of luck out there, except for when you play MSU. Just kidding. Best of luck. Hopefully everything goes well. And then some basketball-related news. Duke is officially returning the favor for that home and home that originally was scheduled during the COVID times. They will be coming to East Lansing next fall. Yay, I guess.
December, I want to say. For month. If you guys want to look at month and want to start looking at when you might need to plan to take a day off of work, it's going to be in December. Obviously, schedule is not in concrete and officially announced yet. This does slot in with all of the other Big Ten games we talked about yesterday.
Yep. And so hopefully that'll be a good fun time, and yay, we don't have to see Cooper Flag in East Lansing, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully, I guess
it would be fun to see him in East Lansing. Would not be fun to play him in East Lansing.
Yeah,
I'll say.
There's still that talk about him not wanting to play in like Charlotte or whatever team, and just coming back to school because he can make more money at.
If the new athletic director, if their first order of business is donating their entire contract to get Cooper Flag to East Lansing, I support it.
That's fine. We could do that. Other basketball news, Jace Richardson, no shocker here, officially invited to the NBA Combine. Surprise, surprise, he's probably going to be a lottery pick. Of course he's going to be at the Combine, but it's official as of today. And then the last piece of basketball-related news, Greg Gard, coach of Wisconsin, his annual cancer fundraiser was today. Tom Izzo was out in attendance, and some media from MSU also came to cover and promote the event, and there was a good show out, good turnout, good event. Great for Tom to go show some love and help raise some money for a good cause there. So we just wanted to shout that out because that was a good especially with everything going on in his newest interim athletic director title. He's got other stuff I'm sure he'd be doing if he wasn't here or wasn't there, but he still took the time out and went to help raise some money for a good cause. So that was today. And thank you, Tom and Greg, for that wonderful event. And glad to see that was going. Last piece of news I have, Isaac Howard, an update even more on the saga that is his potential pro contract. Tampa Bay Lightning GM Julien Brisebois came out with his end-of-year presser today and was asked directly how he felt about the chances of signing Isaac Howard to his entry-level contract are now that the news has came out that he wanted to come back to East Lansing. He flat out said it's unlikely at this point that he thinks he'll be signed in Tampa Bay. Said at this point it looks like he's either going to be traded, have his rights traded to another team, and the Lightning will try to recoup some capital there, or they'll let him walk to free agency. The Lightning will get a second-round compensatory pick in the 2027 draft, I believe, if that happens. So not the best. I have thoughts on that. I think Tampa Bay completely fumbled this whole situation, but oh darn, that's just not having to, as a Red Wings fan, not having to see Ike in a Lightning uniform. That's okay with me. So I'm
Stevie, if you're watching this, wake up the phone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's why I'm doing the phone signal. I'm like, Stevie? Like, come on. Like, we need to continue Augustine
Stevie?
and Isaac call. Just make the call. Like, trade something.
I would try to acquire the rights. I wouldn't even risk. From what Julian said in his press conference, it sounds like Isaac may want to eventually get to free agency and have his pick of team, which I get there's benefits of that.
Can you blame him?
So there may not be a team that can trade for him because I don't see another NHL team giving up serious assets for a player who won't sign a contract. So, I mean, to be determined, I guess. But if I was Steve Yzerman, I would be calling my old bosses in Tampa and old friends in Tampa and say, hey, what can I do to get his rights now and see if we can get this worked out? Because I would much rather have him here than have to go against 30 other NHL teams to get him. But we'll see.
The way that our life as Detroit sports fans work is that Detroit's going to be a finalist and we're not going to land him next summer, right?
Probably.
Are you ready to put that plan into motion next August?
Well,
we all think we're getting him and then we cry? Okay.
The joke about it
Just making sure everyone is ready for that. I'm sorry for putting it out in the universe, but you were thinking it when we were talking. You know it.
I do want to say one thing, though. So, and this is my proposal to Ike, and the reason why you need to come to Detroit. One, because Detroit is one of the founding NHL teams. Like, historically, one of the greatest teams in the NHL. Number two is you play with Trey Augustine. You love playing with Trey. Like, who doesn't love playing with Trey? Okay, that's number two. And Red Savage as well. So Red Savage is with the Red Wings as well. There's a history of MSU to the Red Wings. So why not just continue to play with some of these great teammates of yours that you have currently at MSU you played with? So, and then three is Steve Yzerman's the GM. Like, who wouldn't love to play for Steve Yzerman?
And the Red Wings are up and coming.
Dylan Larkin, based on his end-of-year press conference.
Read into that what you want, but
we're not a Wings podcast anyway.
I was just going to say, we're not a Wings podcast.
I had to throw the shot at the Michigan player. I'm sorry.
I do love Steve Yzerman's response to that, too. So, but there's a whole other thing. But yeah, so that's all the updated news and notes. Any other thoughts on the basketball talk or Anthony Jones or anything for you guys before we wrap things up?
What stands out for me is Anthony Jones. Ironically now, I believe with the way the Big Ten schedule works, he will be playing all three of his former teams within the next 2 years. He'll be playing at his two of his former teams, his most recent two previous teams, at their home stadiums in the next season. He'll be playing at Spartan Stadium October 11th. I penciled this in as likely a homecoming game for Michigan State just due to how the schedule falls. Mm-hmm. You probably see this or their FCS game against Youngstown as their homecoming game most likely. So I would say could be an interesting one with homecoming in the air, and you have the defensive back coach, Coach Meat, coming back along with Anthony Jones. Just interesting storyline along with former quarterback commit Henry Hasselbeck, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Couple interesting storylines there for the UCLA game. I'm sure we'll talk about that more in October. Then also he'll be playing at Bloomington, Indiana against IU, I believe 2 weeks after that. So going to be an interesting season for him because he is now on his fourth school in 4 years, all four in the Big Ten. Going to be a interesting time. I remember seeing a comment on his commitment that someone said he just loves the Big Ten, doesn't he?
Big Ten Infinity Stones.
Hey, he has 1 more year of eligibility after this. He can fit in one more Big Ten school, I'm just saying.
Possibly. That would be really interesting. But also just want to say, like, I don't know about you guys, but, like, I kind of fully expected to never see Duke come to Michigan State. Yeah, because they don't play true away games. But, hey, the one time
it was hinted at by Izzo at one point. I remember we talked about it on a podcast months back. Because Izzo had already hinted that they were in final negotiations, but now it's officially on a paper. We officially have a month, at least. We don't have a date, but we have a month, and that is going to be interesting, especially in the December slot. The question becomes, do you put it early December, right before your early conference games? Do you have your early conference games, a tune-up, and then you get to play a Duke? Or do you put it right before your Big Ten slate? I hope it's not like your December 28th game or something. Yeah. I'm hoping it's before the students go home so they get to have one good one, especially with the Izzone. You want that Izzone to play a factor, so I'm really hoping you see it early December. Finals week, let everyone get some stress out by yelling at Duke players.
Yeah.
Or
I'm sure it'll be early December. They won't make it a holiday game. I'm sure it will be too,
because you can't tease that you're getting Duke and then go and say, oh, psych, by the way, it's not for his own members. So
I was just going to say, or do you do it late December and try to bring the alumni zone back to Breslin?
Alumni zone, or
so the alumni zone is amazing, man. Like, it is so insanely good.
They were extremely loud. I would say they were they might have been the loudest. Okay, them and
We
the
also don't
Oregon
lose.
game. Oregon game was the 2000th anniversary. With the 2000th anniversary, both those games extremely loud, especially with the comeback against Oregon. Those two are among my top for loudest I've heard. The Izzone, I'm not going to give an edge to either one because no matter what, it's controversial. But I also genuinely think both were amazing. I would almost say you give your finals week the Duke game, and then your alumni Izzone game. Maybe you have Michigan early in the conference schedule.
Yeah, it would be interesting,
But then you deny the
we
Izzones their chance. So I get it.
we typically play well in front of the alumni zone though. So
Yeah, I want to say we've won like what 4, 5, 6 straight.
Yeah.
at least that, yeah.
But I mean, normally we get the Penn State of the world. No offense,
Yeah,
Penn State basketball, but you
I was
didn't
just
make
gonna
the Big
say-
Ten tournament last year.
Yeah, the teams we typically play with the alumni aren't always the best.
All right. Well, I guess that'll wrap it up for this quick episode that, again, it's probably going to be about 40 minutes. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thanks, guys, for joining me, of course. And as always, any more news and notes on this never-ending athletic director search, we'll let you know. And then, I think we have, like I said last night, some fun stuff in the works to get planned over the next few weeks during the off season. So make sure you're tuning in, following us on all the socials and whatnot. Maybe some chances to be on the show for fans. Maybe some chances to dictate what we talk about, that sort of stuff. So follow along. Hope you enjoy this again, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. So as always, take care and go green.
Go White.
So